Welcome back everybody for another Warframe build video. Today we are taking a look at Gara, the Gorilla Glass Warframe. The Glass Princess of annoying splinters, Gara decimates the battlefield with her crystalline prowess. Gara's blueprint is awarded when you complete the Saya's Vigil quest from Kanzu in Cetus. You can pick up Gara component blueprints from level 5 to 40 bounties on the plains of Eidolon. To get the Saya's Vigil quest, you must complete the first story quest, Vor's Prize, be at least a Mastery Rank 1, and complete any bounty on the plains of Eidolon. Because of these requirements, Gara is an excellent Warframe for low-level players to get, because she will scale very well towards endgame as well. Gara's passive ability is called Glint. When standing in bright light, Gara has a chance to blind enemies within 12 meters around her for 10 seconds. Blinded enemies will be open to finisher attacks. Affected enemies will show a similar visual effect to that of Loki's Radial Blind. While enemies must be in line of sight to be affected, they do not actually have to be facing Gara. Enemies already blinded can have the effect refreshed when Glint procs again. Glint can affect enemies crystallized by Gara's 4th ability, and finisher damage will be boosted by the damage multipliers of her 2nd and 4th abilities. Gara's first ability is Shattered Lash, where she can either lash out with a stream of shattered glass or swing it like a sword. At max rank, this attack will hit enemies within 10 meters in front of Gara, dealing 800 puncture damage. Pressing the 1 key will fire the ability in a straight line, but holding the 1 key will cause Gara to sweep from left to right in a 180-degree arc, dealing 800 slash damage instead. Enemies within 0.75 meters of Gara will also be knocked backwards. The glass longsword has an innate punch through and will bypass entities, walls, and obstacles. Strength mods will increase your damage as well as your equipped melee weapon mods. Range and sweep arc are affected by your range mods, but blade radius is not. Gara's 2nd ability, Splinter Storm, causes her armor to shatter into a whirlwind of glass shards around herself, an ally, or an enemy. At max rank, Splinter Storm will last 22 seconds, circling the target at a radius of 2.5 meters, causing 250 damage per second to enemies and objects. If Gara has no eligible target when casting, she will cast Splinter Storm on herself. When cast on Gara or an ally, the target also receives 70% damage resistance at max rank, but if cast on an enemy, then the target receives 35% increased damage vulnerability. Damage per second is distributed between impact, puncture, and slash damage types. Power strength affects your damage per second, damage reduction, and damage multiplier. Damage reduction caps out at 90%, which is achievable with simply 129% power strength. Ability duration and range mods will of course affect Splinter Storm's duration and range. Casting speed is affected by the mods Natural Talent and Speed Drift. Splinter Storm can also be cast on mission objectives such as cryopods, excavators, hacked drones, hostages, and more. You can cast Splinter Storm on multiple targets while active. Spectral Rage is Gara's 3rd ability, trapping her enemies in a carousel of mirrors. Enemies within this carousel will attack their reflections. At max rank, Spectral Rage will create 12 mirrors, with each breaking after receiving 800 damage. Upon being destroyed, each mirror will release the received damage outwards in an explosion of energy. Once 6 mirrors are broken at max rank, the carousel will implode, causing 1500 damage to enemies inside the ring. Spectral Rage lasts 22 seconds unless enough mirrors are broken to cause it to collapse. Strength mods affect both mirror damage and implosion damage. As with Splinter Storm, Spectral Rage damage is distributed between impact, puncture, and slash. Range mods will affect the number of mirrors and implosion threshold, but not casting range. Duration mods will affect duration of course, and casting speed is affected by natural talent and speed drift. The mirrors have a higher threat level than players, so enemies will ignore players as long as there are mirrors active. If a Spectral Rage mirror shatters inside Splinter Storm's radius, half of the mirror's damage will be permanently added to Splinter Storm's damage per second until it expires. Damage can be stacked from multiple mirrors breaking within Splinter Storm's radius. Gara's last ability is Mass Vitrify. With this ability, Gara releases an expanding ring of molten glass around her that will crystallize enemies entering it. Once the ring finishes expanding, it hardens into a solid barrier, blocking enemy fire and movement. At max rank, the ring will expand for 3 seconds while draining 3 energy per second in addition to a casting cost of 75. The ring will expand outwards to a radius of 11 meters with a maximum height of 12 meters and last for 22 seconds. When the ring is created, its base will align with Gara's feet to match the Warframe's height. It is important to note then that the ring will expand downwards, so casting while jumping can provide for a taller defensive barrier. Downward expansion is also much faster than horizontal expansion. Most enemies will be blocked by the ring once hardened, however most bosses and eidolons can pass straight through. Range mods will affect your initial and maximum horizontal radii, but not the initial and maximum ring heights. Duration mods will affect expansion time and as a result also affect the maximum horizontal radius. Duration mods also increase the duration of the hardened ring. Efficiency mods will affect the initial casting cost, while both efficiency and duration mods will affect the per second drain cost. The molten ring bypasses all entities, obstacles, and terrain as it expands. Enemies that come in contact with the molten ring during expansion will be crystallized after 3 seconds, staying immobilized for 16 seconds at max rank. Crystallized enemies also receive 50% more damage. Strength mods will increase the damage multiplier, and duration mods will increase the crystallized status duration. Special note, casting Gara's mass Vitrify will refresh the Splinter Storm timer on Gara and any affected allies that come in contact with the molten glass during expansion. And lastly, hitting the hardened ring with Shattered Lash will cause the barrier to be destroyed and deal the Shattered Lash's damage plus 600 heat damage to enemies within 8 meters of the ring's exterior surface. Okay, now let's take a look at my builds. For this first build, I have focused more on a tanky element. I have a higher duration which allows my Splinter Storm to stay active for much longer. I have 145% power strength which puts me past that threshold for 90% damage reduction cap. And I have a small boost to my efficiency which allows me to cast it more readily early off without worrying about finding a certain amount of energy to do so. My second build is a little bit more focused on balance, where I have a slightly lower duration than my previous build, but I have a much higher range added to this build. This build still allows for the 90% damage reduction through Splinter Storm, but with the increased range I can provide more crowd control through Spectral Rage. My third build is more of a for fun build and a proof of concept build than an actual playing build. This build is focused on making Gara a massive AoE killing machine. All 3 builds focus on the use of rejuvenation for the aura, which combines well with both her passive Glint and her second ability Splinter Storm. Now let's talk about weapon choices to use with Gara. Gara came with 3 weapons, the Astilla, Fusilier, and Volnus, though these are not necessarily the best weapons to use with her. Because of Gara's crowd control aspect with both mass Vitrify and Spectral Rage, weapons that can take advantage of grouping enemies together work well. One of my personal favorites is to use Zenistar, where I create a barrier slightly smaller than Zenistar's disc damage radius. When this is placed in a choke point, this prevents enemies from just running through the Zenistar disc too quickly and allows them to be stuck and killed by Zenistar's damage. Overall, Gara was a fun frame to level up, and she has a wonderful versatility with her abilities and how differently you can build her. Whether you build Gara to be a tank, a defensive frame, or a crowd control frame, she can fit many different needs within your group. Alright, well that is it for today's video guys. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to hit the like button. Also make sure you hit subscribe and tick that notification bell if you haven't already done so. Leave me a comment below. Let me know what you think about Gara, what you think about my builds, and if you have any recommendations or your own build that you would like to share, we would love to see it in the comments below. Again, this was Gara, our glass theme Warframe. I am your host, Mr. Spicy. Thank you guys for watching. I will see you in the next video.